Chondro, corner where we rise and grow. Twist and turn, let the passion flow. Chondro, corner watch the future shine. Every scale a story, one of a kind.
From the shadows we move, striking out bright. In every twist we find the light. Breeding the best, gotta have patience in this game. Chondro corner where we make our name. Chondro corner, Chondro corner, Chondro corner, Chondro corner, Chondro corner, Chondro corner, Chondro corner. Chondro corner where we rise and grow. Twist and turn, let the passion flow. Chondro corner, watch the future shine. Every scale a story, one of a kind.
What it do, Control Heads. Welcome to another episode 73 of the Control Corner. You know, this week we got something special, Military Mondays, with my boy Jake in the back right now. Honestly, this is a living legend, a badass. For real. Excuse my friend, y'all, but he literally a badass. Y'all gonna see with the documents that we got and everything. Then we're gonna go into his career in the military. Kicking ass and taking names. But first, what it do? It's your boy Ro here, your host, Control Corner Podcast, Herp Collectors Network. Nothing really going on right now. Just like I said, feeding the snakes until like probably the ball pythons until probably August, September. That's when I start pairing for my ball python season. The berm doing good. The chondros are doing great as well. I mostly have like 1 or 2 more coming in for the rest of the year. Shout out to my boy Dimitri, Art of Chondros. Make sure you hit him up, you know what I'm saying, on his Instagram and all that stuff. You know, he gonna bless me with another 1 or 2, you know. So just shout out to Dimitri. But if you're looking for some of the best reptile enclosures in the game, hit up my boy Jordan Horton at Heartland Reptiles. He'll get you hooked up. Him and Art Hager came up with these beautiful enclosures. And he can do any kind of look that you want and all that. So just hit my boy up and he got you. But without further ado, we're gonna have my boy Jake on. What's going on? How you doing, bro?
Doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Ecstatic, man. You know, just glad to have you on tonight and hear some of these stories of, you know, what went down in early 2000s that you know people don't know about.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. Before we get into that, I would like to go to God in prayer.
Oh yeah, for sure, bro.
I think it's important. I think it's important to acknowledge him because we can't take our next breath, have our next thought, or do anything without him. So let's do it. Heavenly Father.
Oh, is it just me or does Ro have a bad mic? Let me bring my mic up a little bit. Let me see. One moment. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Can you hear me good, Ro?
Better now? Yeah, I can hear you good. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me as well. But yeah.
We're solid?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, another day of life in which we can strive to do your will, to spread your word and further your kingdom. We pray, Lord, that you would give us strength as we walk through this crazy life. And we thank you, Lord, for sending your son to die on the cross for our sins. We pray, Lord, that you would bless your children spiritually and physically, and that we would do your will. Thank you again, Lord. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right.
Hey, we couldn't be here today without God himself. in the situations that we were in, you know, that's all we got to thank, honestly, you know, making it back home to our family and kids.
I'll say this: faith is not necessarily a popular thing, especially Christian faith is not necessarily a popular thing, and I really don't care who dislikes it. I don't care. You know, I'm going to get into this in a minute, but literally, I was in a lion's den from February 2004 to February 2005, and I should have really been praying when I was in Iraq. It was crazy.
Right.
I may have only prayed 4 or 5 times when I was there. And those 4 or 5 times that I prayed, not only did he protect me, but he used me, and I made it back home. And again,
right.
Without that, who knows, right? So, you know, my buddy Rory Gresco said being a Christian these days is the most punk rock thing that you can do.
Amen. Amen.
A lot of people
let's see who.
A lot of people.
Yeah, let's see who's in the chat real quick. You know, got my boy Duval. What up, bro? How you doing? How you doing? Big Mike, Ebony, and Ivory Reptiles. What's going on, brother? How you doing? Mental Captive, Brett Reptiles. Appreciate you coming
Josh?
through.
What's up, buddy?
For sure, for sure. Hey, Josh, hey, he a good dude, real good dude. What's going on, Big Uncle Double L in the building? Then we got Dickie. What's going on? How you doing, brother? We got Richard. What's going on? What's going on? Got my boy B. What's going on? Peace and pets. Appreciate y'all coming through. We got my boy Jordan. Hit up Jordan Hart and Reptiles for the best enclosures in the reptile community. Appreciate y'all coming through. But so what year did well, first of all, how did you get into reptiles?
Okay, that started before I joined the Army. I got my first snake. Well, I got my first snake when I was 15. I think that was 95. It was a little colubrid that they found at the school I went to. My science teacher was given charge of it, and when I went to class that day, I saw it, and I was like, "Hey, that's cool." And he said, "Man, do you want to take it home?" And I did. And it was I can't remember, 30 something years ago. Anyway, it was I didn't know how to care for it. It got too cold in our trailer mobile home that I lived in. One morning I woke up and the poor little guy was belly up. That was the first reptile I had. I was 15. When I was 19, I went to one of the local pet stores and picked up a red tail boa, and picked up a little thin book about boa constrictors. And I got home, was flipping through the book, and there was a red Amazon tree boa. As most people are, I was captivated when I saw it. I immediately picked the phone up. It was a landline. The phone had a cord attached to it. You don't see that much these days, but picked the phone up, called the pet store I had got the red tail boa from, and asked them if they could get me an Amazon tree boa. And as I recall, she said, "Yeah, I can have you on Tuesday." I went that next Tuesday. There's a little lavender garden phase thing, maybe about that long. Set it up in a 10-gallon glass aquarium with a heat rock because I didn't know anything. Yeah.
Oh man.
I didn't know. I would, a lot of people when they step off down that road, I mean, most, and again, I don't even think the internet was a thing back in
Yeah.
back in 99. I don't, maybe it was, and it was just starting. I can't remember. My
Yeah.
email
Yeah,
address.
well, like you don't know no better. You know, you in a pet store and everything. You trying to just mimic what the pet store have. So you don't know no better. You haven't done the scientific research for the animal and everything at that point. You know, so you can't fault yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the red Amazon. I thought, dude, that thing is so cool. And
Hmm.
naturally, I wanted one for myself. Had no clue about husbandry or anything, And I ended up getting a second one shortly afterward. And the second one I got was like what we would call a tricolor. And man, this thing was violent. It came and it was in a snake bag, and I had no idea how crazy this thing was. I
Was it an
cut the bag,
import or anything like that?
dude. I honestly I don't know. I
Mhm.
feel like it was probably an import. Now it was in
Mhm.
great condition, and it was adult. Uh, the lady at the pet store said there was a local breeder, and I didn't ask any questions. So it could have been a surplus male. Um, it didn't
Yeah.
look like a dinosaur. It didn't look. It looked. It was very healthy. It was a good looking snake, but this
Hmm.
thing was violent. And opened the bag up, put my hand down inside, and that booger chewed me up. And I was like, dang.
Oh man.
Because, yeah, the book I had didn't say nothing about that. It didn't
Right.
say nothing about that. So I had to, I had to learn. I was baptized in fire basically. But finally got the thing out of the bag. Probably lost a half a pint of blood. No, I'm just it chewed on me. I
Yeah.
I ended up building this. I want to say it was a 3x3x3 uh, cube deal out of some 2x4s and some wire mesh,
Hmm.
and yeah, didn't know how to set it up, but a lot of
Okay.
us learn. A lot of us learned the hard way, so I didn't know how to set it up. But yeah, that wasn't too long after that. I joined the army, which was actually enlisted in December of 2000, and I signed up as a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout.
Hmm.
January 24th of 2001. Well, a couple days prior to that, I shipped off to Fort Knox, Kentucky. My
Oh,
basic
that's bad.
trainings. Disney. It was dubbed Disneyland Barracks.
No, no, nothing about that is Disneyland.
It was funny. Yeah, that place was. But I actually started. It was called One Station Unit Training, and what that is that's your basic training and your advanced individual training all wrapped up in one. And for infantry and cavalry, that's what they did back then. You would go,
Hmm.
like the cavalry went to Fort Knox. We did 9 weeks of basic training, and then we did another 9 weeks of cavalry scout training.
Right.
So
So
yeah,
so with the
so
scouts, my understanding is scouts are just like infantrymen, but more in detail, and they go in little small groups, unlike the infantrymen.
correct. Now, what to to get more into detail, what sold me when I was enlisting, what sold me on being cavalry, specifically a scout, because you got 19 kilo cavalry tankers, and they operate M1 Abrams tanks, and then you got air cav, which are basically warrant officers that fly various different types of helicopters, Apaches. Back in my day, they flew Little Birds, which were Kiowa Warriors, different helicopter platforms. And then the guys that do the actual reconnaissance are the scouts. And what sold me on being a cavalry scout was, yes, you work in small groups. It's highly independent. We use all available weapon systems. If I'm shooting my rifle as a cavalry scout, it's a bad day. My job is to sit there. Well, there's multiple jobs, but it's basically to sit there on what we would call an OPLP, which is an observation post / listening post. And you're going to set up in certain areas. Basically, we would want to get on a hill. If there was a hill, you would want to get on a hill. You would want to conceal yourself, and then you immediately start drawing up a range card. And what a range card is it's basically a rough sketch of what you see, 360 degrees, what you see. And you will jot down things like what we call NAIs, which is a named area of interest. So basically, if there's a building or a compound out there or another hill, I would jot that down and call it NAI dog or NAI bird. And then roadways, pathways, whether it's any roadways where a tank or enemy troops could travel, you get your grid coordinate. We take GPS. Old school, they used to basically get their grid coordinate off of a map, but in my day we had GPS. So I would set up, get my grid coordinate, get on the radio, call my commanders, and say, "Hey, I'm right here." Okay. Out there is an intersection. And at that intersection, a roadway, an intersection. We're going to get a 10-digit grid coordinate to that intersection. And I'm going to call that, it's called a target reference point, a TRP. I'm going to call that target reference point Amazon tree boa. I call them up. I tell them where that is. And I do that because in the event that hostile forces get close to that intersection, I can immediately get on the radio and say, "Hey, fire target reference point Amazon tree boa." And we as a cavalry scout, number one, we're the eyes and ears of the battalion commander. So we report directly to the guy that's in charge. So in the event the enemy we're approaching that intersection, I would try to time it where as they were getting just so close to that intersection, I get on the radio and we're privy to certain information. If I know what kind of guns they're shooting, whether it's mortars, artillery, tomahawks, patriots, I can literally, a scout can literally, and we'll get into this here in a minute, a scout can literally say, "Hey, fire this target reference point." And they could send, there could be a boat in the waterway, let's say, for instance, the Persian Gulf.
Right.
And so it takes a certain amount of time for that fire to come in, that fire to come in and hit that target. So if I understand what rounds they're using, then I can time that where as soon as that round comes in, it's basically on top of the enemy's head. Okay. And if you're good at math, and you're good at your job, buddy, it doesn't take but a split second to wipe out whatever you're looking at.
Right. So what was what was like some of your best memories in the military?
That's an awesome question. Honestly, it was the camaraderie. It was my buddies, my fellow
Yeah.
buddies. Now, anybody that was in the service, especially Army or like you, Ro, your Army.
Yeah.
My dad retired Air Force, and Air Force, those guys do some incredible things, and the stress level on Air Force is not the stress level on a little ground pounder like myself. The Air Force gets the best food, they get the best bases, they get the best housing. I don't think they got the best uniforms. They don't have the but they have the best equipment. The Air Force's budget, and the Navy's budget compared to Army and Marines is vastly superior. They have money to sink in to their equipment and their airmen and sailors. And Air Force is, without the Air Force, a guy like me is useless. A guy like me is useless. In Iraq, and I'll get into that in a minute, but in Iraq, we had something called the JTAC, the Joint Tactical Air Command. And those were Air Force soldiers or airmen that were attached to my battalion. For instance, we dropped some 500-pound bombs on numerous occasions. And when we did that, the JTAC, the Joint Tactical Air Command, would give latitude and longitude to an F-18 or F-15 based upon the information we gave them, and then boom. So again,
you need Air Force. You really do.
Well, they're a combat multiplier. They're what you call a combat multiplier. Indirect fire, a mortar round that I'm calling in, that's a combat multiplier. When a mortar or a fire for effect, which could be 15, 120 millimeter mortar rounds, when it comes in and I'm looking at that and the enemy's dead, that's a combat multiplier. I can say, woo, that's awesome. That's a
right.
But to sum it up, as far as a scout or an infantryman, our whole job is to break stuff and hurt people. That's our whole job. Our whole job is to break stuff and hurt people.
Right.
And in combat, it's intense. It is not something, I don't want anybody to go through some of the stuff that I went through. It's just it stains your brain, and it takes a long time to recover from.
Yeah.
But as far as best memories are my brothers that in the barracks we were drinking beers and slapping each other.
Right. Hey, those long nights when you come back from the field and you in the barracks room and everybody drinking beer, hammered drunk, everybody probably falling down some stairs, get the MPs called on you in your whole battalion. Those are the best memories.
It's funny. Yeah, we'd be throwing each other around. I was after I got out of basic training or OSUT from Fort Knox, I actually got to Germany June 30th of 2001.
You was out there in Germany.
I was in Schweinfurt, Germany, which is in Bavaria. It's in Bavaria, and I was.
Were you
I was
at Hohenfeld?
I went, dude. I tell you what, man. I was lucky. I only went to Hohenfeld's one time that I can remember. Okay,
bro. I did go to hell no.
The mud, and the wild hogs. There were a bunch of wild hogs. The mud was the mud was a bad thing. Wintertime, the snow is, it's cold, it sucks, you're muddy, you're dirty. You're eating MREs, you're not getting much
Right.
sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
I
know my
personally
time. Yeah, my time in Hornsfeld was, well, I went to Hornsfeld like maybe 4 times in 1 year. I went to Hornsfeld, and for about 30 days, sometimes 2 weeks. But they always had training incidents with the muddy hills, vehicle rollovers, and I believe like last year or 2 years ago, they just had a rollover accident and 2 soldiers died during that time.
yeah.
It's always a rollover accident, and I believe they just need to go ahead and change it now at this point, because we're losing too many soldiers to these training exercises and all that stuff, because we're trying to make sure that we're fit for the fight. But still, if you keep going to these exercises, you ain't gonna have nobody.
Yeah. It's part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
the deal is train like you fight. So, you're
Literally.
and that isn't even the truth, because no one's shooting back at you when you're training.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, when bullets are flying past you and stuff's blowing up, it brings a whole different perspective to the situation.
Yeah, it's surreal in that moment. Is, oh shit is really going down. I need to, and then you tap into that military mental, like, you got to cover it, then you got to see what the enemy at, then shoot. And that's how my mind is trained. You conceal yourself. If you taking fire, you conceal yourself, and then you shoot, and then you make sure your buddy is okay if you have somebody with you.
Shoot, move, and communicate.
Right.
Engage the enemy.
Right.
Displace. Communicate.
Mm-hmm.
When your heart, when you're in combat, active combat, and someone's trying to kill you and your friends, buddy, your heart is. I tell you, there's no adrenaline rush. You can't. There's no drug. There's nothing that can compare to that adrenaline rush. And I'm not going to glorify this. There's nothing about combat that is. There's no glory. Number one, taking somebody's life. The fact of the matter is that person is trying to kill you. Is trying to hurt your friends. You end up taking their life to keep your friends and yourself alive. You don't think about it much. Now, you're going to process stuff, and it's in split seconds. You're going to process stuff, but you don't process it immediately like you end up processing it. So,
right.
So to get into it, I got to Germany June 30th of 2001. My unit, 126 Infantry. I was in 126 Infantry, 2nd Dagger Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. I was a cavalry scout for an infantry battalion. There were 30 to 35 cavalry scouts in an 800-man battalion. About 650, give or take, of those soldiers were 11 Bravo infantrymen. What we call grunts. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that,
we still call them that, or we just call them janitors.
Yeah, but hey, when they're not,
that's all they do.
When you're not deployed to a combat theater, those guys,
Right.
those infantry guys, are cleaning toilets, mopping floors,
Cutting the grass,
picking up cigarette butts,
right?
making the rocks face north. painting gear. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
putting the 25th coat of paint on a shovel.
And
I
this
mean,
no
there's
lie, y'all. This is no lie. That's all they do. That's all them infantrymen do. If we're not at war, they're cleaning. They're cleaning the area. You know, they're cleaning the post, the installation, and that's it. You know, and they run
absolutely.
drills constantly. Just run drills.
Yeah, so 35 scouts out of 800 soldiers. Again, a scout's job is reconnaissance, uh, calling for indirect fire, route zone area recons, PSD, personal security detachment for high-ranking people like colonels and
Hmm.
generals. Colonels and generals love using some scouts to escort them through whatever.
Hmm.
You know, so June 30th, 01, I get to Schweinfurt, Germany, Leadwood Barracks, do a little processing deal called Head Start, where they basically taught us, you know, hey, this is how you order a beer. This is how you order a schnitzel. Hey, don't do this out on the German economy. Don't piss off the Germans. Don't
Yeah,
break, you know, don't do all the stuff that we ended up doing anyway. Because I was I was
because y'all was
21 when I
idiots.
got there. Because we're a bunch of young, dumb, young men
Yeah,
that, you
same
know,
same here.
thought,
I went to Germany when I was 21 as well.
yeah. So for a lot of us, many of us, most of us, it was the first time in a foreign country.
Hmm.
And so, cut to the chase. Uh, in late August, we had our battalion was tasked to be Op 4, which basically Op 4 is basically we are to be the mock enemy for another friendly unit. And what we were doing was we were Op 4 for a Ranger battalion, and I want to say it was in St. Wendel, Germany, which was don't don't quote my geography, but I believe it was in the southwest corner of Germany, really close to. I want to say, love you too, Randy.
What's going on,
I want to
Randy?
say it was close to. I want to say it was close to Switzerland. Anyway, we went there late August. We had 4 commitments. We went there. The Rangers jumped in. I don't know. It was about 50 miles away. They jumped in and did a road march to an
Hmm.
old German barracks, a Nazi barracks that my unit was staged up as the enemy. And these Rangers came in these barracks, kicked the doors in, and, you know, arrested us. And we tried to resist. Anyway,
Hmm.
we had 4 of those commitments. And the deal was we were going to go and then come back to Schweinfurt, go and do that 4 times.
Yeah.
We went the first time, we got back to Schweinfurt, and boom, September 11th happened. And, you know, so I'm 46 years old now, so I'm getting up there. In a couple of 4 years, if I make it, I'm gonna be half a century old.
You gonna
So,
make it, bro.
Lord willing. But for the youngsters, some of the youngsters, September 11, 2001 was a terrible time, and according to intelligence, and I don't believe everything I hear, and I don't believe everything the government tries to spoon feed us or force feed us. That's another story. But apparently, two planes hit the World Trade Centers in New York, and then there were some other attacks. A plane hit the Pentagon. I want to say it was, I can't remember. It was Flight 93 was actually the passengers took over. That plane was hijacked, and I think it crashed in a field, maybe in, I don't know if it was Pennsylvania. Anyway, there were some attacks that day, and
Yeah.
that changed everything. That changed everything. And so when that happened, they locked us down. We went to Threat Con Delta, which is the highest threat level. And we began to guard all of the Western interests in Germany. Whether it was officer barracks where officers and their families lived, or for the scout platoon, we guarded an installation around the corner from Edward Barracks called the DPW. The DPW was the Directorate of Public Works, and it was just a facility where we could go and like do auto body work on our cars, or you could go to a supply building and get paint to paint your barracks room or whatever. It was the DPW. They had various things at the DPW. Anyway, that's where the scout platoon was tasked with guarding. We were on ThreatCon Delta for, I want to say, about a month before they lowered it to Threat Condition Charlie. Okay. So at that time, we had orders to deploy to Kosovo for a peacekeeping mission. So fast forward April 2002 to November 2002, I was in Jelani, Kosovo at Camp Monteith. And I'm just going to say it, that was a complete waste of time and taxpayer dollars. Some people may disagree with me. It was not. I'm about to make a statement, and this is the absolute truth. I would rather do 100 Iraqs over one Kosovo.
No, okay. That's saying something.
Now, Iraq, they were trying to kill me.
Yeah.
But I would rather do 100 Iraqs, which I was in Iraq for a year. I was at Kosovo for 7 months. But buddy, that Kosovo mission was garbage. It sucked. I mean, it sucked bad. And to just give you a small taste of why it sucked bad was because your chain of command had you under a microscope. If you farted the wrong flavor, you were getting what we call UCMJ, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice. They were going to write you a counseling statement. When you get a second counseling statement for the same offense, you get an Article 15. Okay. So, it was a glorified training area. I think we had, in that 7 months, we had 3 incidents. A civilian truck hit a landmine, and I think it blew a tire off the truck. 2 or 3 dudes ran across a road with AK-47s. And then our division, via 1st Infantry Division, via orders from the Pentagon, was set to downgrade our uniform from a Kevlar to a soft cap. And for you people who don't know, a soft cap is what Roe is wearing. Roe is wearing a soft cap. But we were wearing Kevlars and body armor. And we got orders to downgrade our uniform, take our Kevlars off, put a soft cap on, take our body armor off, and just wear an LBV, which is a load-bearing vest. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you that country, that province, Albania, Kosovo, those people were benefiting greatly from the US dollar. Okay? And when they saw our posture change from Kevlar and flat vest to soft cap and LBV, that was an indication that eventually we were going to leave, which meant that the almighty American dollar was not going to be coming into their country. So, hey, they're about to So we downgraded our uniform, and then someone threw a hand grenade and injured a couple soldiers. Didn't kill them, just injured them. And hey, guess what? We got to put our Kevlars and our flak vests back on. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So it was
BS,
a relaxed environment. And when they noticed
BS
that we
mission.
was about to get ready to leave, you know, they messed something up. They messed it up again.
BS mission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We redeploy back to Schweinfurt, Germany in November of 2002. Unbeknownst to the little guy like me, we already had orders to go into Iraq. Okay. What we were set to do was penetrate Iraq from the north. We were going to go in through Turkey. Okay. We were going to use Turkey's airspace and their ground to penetrate Iraq. Turkey held a vote in the Turkish parliament and voted no. Okay. Again, I wasn't operating at the level where these guys are making plans. I'm a little dude on the ground. So
Yeah.
Turkey voted no. We already knew we were going to Samarra, Iraq, in the Sunni Triangle, Salahuddin province.
Mm-hmm.
We knew we were going there, but the war hadn't even kicked off yet. So the Pentagon and the brass were all in the planning stages, figuring out which units, which divisions, how we were going to do this. And again, I wasn't privy to that information.
Mm-hmm.
So Turkish parliament ended up holding another vote, a second vote, and again, they voted no. So, and this was in 2003 when they were holding these votes. So it ended up, our division went in through Kuwait. We went to Kuwait. We got to Kuwait. I want to say it was February 15th of 2004. Let me back up a minute. I was one scout in a platoon of 35 scouts in an 800-man infantry battalion. I ended up becoming the battalion commander. Colonel Allen, Kirk T. Allen, pulled me out of the scout platoon to drive him to be his driver for the Iraq deployment.
Right.
That is without getting into craziness, that's a big time honor. This guy, Colonel Allen, had been to 4 combat deployments. His first, he was a platoon leader with a scout platoon through Desert Storm in '91. He was a first lieutenant. His second, third, and fourth were a couple deployments to Somalia and Haiti. So he had 4 combat deployments. When he got to my battalion, he picked my silly butt to be his driver on his 5th combat deployment.
The knucklehead of the crew.
For time's sake, I don't want to get into like, anyway. So that was a big honor. That was a big honor. He could have picked out of the 650 infantrymen, he could have picked an infantryman. But he picked a scout and he picked me. So we get to Kuwait. I think it was February 15th, 2004. When we were in Kuwait, we drew our vehicles that we actually shipped some vehicles. We railheaded some vehicles from Germany, and they got on a boat and went through the water and ended up staging. And we got to Kuwait. I drew a vehicle. It was an M1114 Up Armor Humvee. And March 4th of 2004, we started our road march north into Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
It took 2 days. It took 2 days of driving through Iraq to get to Samarra in the Sunni Triangle, Salahuddin province. Took 2 days. I got there March 6th of 2004.
Right.
We had been trained on what to expect. Being the battalion commander's driver, I knew a little bit more than my fellow soldiers did.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting information from the battalion commander and the battalion sergeant major. The brigade commander was, so I knew stuff. I had a secret clearance, okay, because in the vehicle with the battalion commander, for instance, we had 1st Infantry Division Commander Major General Batiste, who was reporting directly to Donald Rumsfeld. He was in my truck several times, and because I was the driver in that truck, I heard what he was telling the battalion commander, and what he was telling him was not stuff that other soldiers were hearing. And I was entrusted with keeping that information to myself and not telling my fellow soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
We had Colonel Drag.
And what rank was you doing this time?
I was an E4 specialist.
Okay.
E4. The E means enlisted.
Yeah.
You got E1 through E9, and E9 is a sergeant major. It's the highest enlisted rank you can get in the military. I was an E4. I was the dirt under your boot. I was the dirt under your boot. But I was around all this brass, these colonels, these majors, generals, and so I knew stuff we were about to do, and I heard direct conversations that were going to be called. That's directly after we got done with these generals and brigade commander in the truck. They were going to go to an office, get on a phone or on a zipper line, and call Rumsfeld, who was Secretary of Defense, and tell him what my battalion commander said when the general asked him. Okay, right. So in that environment, as a battalion commander, it's a twofold game. You're the leader of 800 soldiers, and this is an infantry battalion commander. Break stuff and hurt people. You're the leader of those soldiers, but you're also a politician. I would never want to be in that situation.
It's a teeter-totter. It's a teeter-totter situation. It's a headache to be in that position, honestly.
I would not want to be in that position.
Yeah. Even with, E7s and up, making decisions like that, because it comes down to our level with the E7s and all that stuff. Making
senior
those
non-commissioned. Mm-hmm. And E7, E8, E9 is a senior non-commissioned officer. Okay, so those guys, we're all leaders, but those guys, the E7s, the E8s, the E9s, they're the leaders. They're the direct supervisors for all the little guys like me. Those guys are the backbone of the Army.
Right.
They do the hard work. The officers, don't get me wrong. A lot of the officers I met were great leaders.
No, we just need y'all to find some paperwork until we get into some real live war shit. Call it commands, but we need you to just sign some paperwork. That's sign these awards, and then you can go into your little meeting and plan out situations in the field that's not going to go as planned. I don't even know why y'all even go to these meetings, because it's not going to go as planned. So just put us out in the field and let us do what we do. That's it. Like, I don't understand why we have all of these meetings and all that stuff to plan out a field exercise and all that stuff. I'm like, yo, nothing that y'all saying is going to go to plan. So why are we even in this meeting? Why?
These officers go to school for years. They get degrees, and high speed. They're high speed, low drag, high speed, low drag. They come to the unit as a second, first lieutenant. They get a platoon, and they got zero clue on how to be effective.
Yeah.
So that platoon sergeant is going to say, "Hey, doofus," and that's being polite. He's going to say, "Hey, doofus, you sit over there and you do what I tell you to do."
Mm-hmm.
And an officer, hey, he ain't got no time in the Army. That platoon sergeant probably got 13, 14 years, 15 years
Yep.
in the Army. It's
Right.
that platoon leader's job to learn from the platoon sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
When
So
that
take us
platoon leader
to, I was about to say, take us to the big fight, the big altercation.
Okay. So Iraq was blowing up when I got there. So it was, we were getting shot at. They were taking 155 millimeter artillery rounds, and they were setting them up to command detonate. And they were using them. They were the roadside bombs, IEDs, improvised explosive devices. And it could be anything from a landmine that had another landmine under it. It could be a mortar round that had it was stuffed with plastic explosive, had a detonation cord. Okay, so they were blowing us up. So fast forward, got there March 6, 2004. The big day, the worst day of my Iraq deployment was July 8, 2004. I was on, leading up to this, July 7th, the night before July 8th, I was on my third transmission in my truck. It was 120 degrees in July, and those transmissions in those engines in those Up Armor Humvees, it's a turbo diesel, were not designed to run in that temperature. So I had gone through two transmissions. I was on my third. The morning of July 8th, I was supposed to take my battalion commander and the 1st Infantry Division commander into Samara for a little visit.
Mm-hmm.
So before we linked up with the 1st Infantry Division commander, I had gotten my transmission replaced the night before. I reported to the battalion commander. I said, "Hey, sir, I'm not confident in this transmission. I want to get this vehicle up to combat speed before we get the general in the truck and it breaks down." So he said, "Roger, get my Bradley driver and my Bradley gunner and link up with EOD, which is the Explosive Ordnance Team. There was an IED 2 miles north of our forward operating base, and I was at forward operating base Brassfield, Mora. So I picked up the Bradley driver and the gunner. I went outside the gate. I was about to link up with EOD so I could go up to get my truck up to speed to make sure that transmission wasn't going to crap out. We were sitting outside the gate, and boom, we heard a massive explosion. And I said, "Did y'all hear that?" And they said, "Yeah." And then come across the radio, "Hey, we got a mass casualty situation at the Iraqi National Guard headquarters." My company commander got on the radio and said, "Hey, come back onto the fob. We're gonna get together and we're gonna go to the Iraqi National Guard headquarters." The call was a mass casualty situation. So the company commander was in an FLA, and FLA was a Humvee. It was a life support Humvee, so you could load casualties in it. So we went 13 kilometers to the Iraqi National Guard headquarters, having no clue what we were about to step into. We knew something bad happened. Something bad happened. So we get there about 15 minutes, 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes after that explosion. So what it was a V-bid, and a V-bid is a suicide vehicle bomber. And what happened was, and this is directly from Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, which was the leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And he quoted, and I didn't know this when this was happening, I found out about it later. He quoted one of the lions of the Badr brigades martyred himself. They took some 155 millimeter artillery rounds, put them in this vehicle, wired them to detonate. The guy went through the gate, hit the building my buddies were sleeping in, and boom! 2/3 of that building collapsed on my buddies that were sleeping in there. And before I go any further, Collier Barkus, Sonny Sampler, Joseph Garnback, William Emanuel, and Robert Colville lost their lives that day in that explosion.
Yeah.
And Collier Barkus was a sniper. The other four soldiers were.
Hey, let's have 10 seconds moment silence for them. They lost a life, and they was fathers, brothers, husbands, and they didn't make it back, man. That's serious. Yeah, man. I don't think people understand, civilians understand the what we put on the line. You put your life on the line, and sometimes the people in the military is more family than your family. A lot of times, not even sometimes, a lot of times, because like you said, the camaraderie, what we go through as a whole, jumping out of planes. Like when I jump out of planes, I tell my brothers and sisters, I see y'all at the bottom. I see y'all on the ground, because I'm not sure what's gonna happen in that air. If they shoot gonna open, is the static line gonna wrap around their neck? Is it gonna wrap around their arm? Or are they gonna hit a truck? Are they gonna hit a tree and live? I don't know what's gonna happen. So I see you on the ground, bro and sister. And
you're gonna break your legs. You're gonna break your legs.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be paralyzed.
Yeah. Hey man, I got like about 55 jumps, 56 jumps in my whole career.
I never jumped.
It's fun. It's fun.
Hey, look, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to jump. I'm kind of glad I didn't have to jump.
But yeah, man, a lot of people don't understand what we put on stage, I guess. They don't know what we do, honestly. In the stress, in the type of stress that we are under.
You've never truly lived until you've almost died.
Oh yeah.
Life has a different flavor when you face death. When you're staring at death, life has a different flavor. And thankfully I've never been like really sick and in the hospital with like some sort of crazy stuff, cancer stuff. Thankfully,
Yeah.
thank God, I've not had to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, when people are shooting at you and they're trying to kill you, survival becomes something that you're grasping with every bit of your being. Survival is, when I was in Iraq, I think I was 24, 25 years old. I was a young man. I had my whole life. I've had my whole life in front of me. I'll be honest. I didn't want to die in the desert. I didn't want to die. Being a young man, I had my mind.
Hey, we laugh about it now because that's just our humor. That we have dark humor. Like, hey, that would have been some shit if I died in the desert, if I got hit in the leg. What the fuck? Like, what? But it can happen. Things like that can happen.
So being a young man, I had a couple things on my mind. Alcohol, and I'm not going to tell you what the other one is, but you can figure it out.
Yes, sir.
Alcohol. I wanted general order number 1 for a soldier that's deployed is no alcohol. And at the time, I was a severe alcoholic, and I loved my beer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink anymore. Praise God. I don't drink anymore. Praise God. But at the time, I had two primary focuses: alcohol and something else. And ended up getting some alcohol and something else when I got back. But suicide car bomber hit the building. For context, we had a platoon of mechanized infantry, 2 mortar teams, and a sniper team. So probably about in between 35 and 45 soldiers, give or take, at this location. And this location was the Iraqi National Guard headquarters on the west bank of the Tigris River. On the east bank of the Tigris River was the city Samarra, Iraq. Okay, so I get there. I pull my vehicle up facing the northwest. Mortar rounds, rockets, indirect RPK, indirect PKM, machine gun. RPK and PKM are Soviet machine guns. The insurgents were spraying them like this. It was a coordinated attack. It started with the suicide bomber, and then they rained down mortars. They were raining down mortar rounds, raining down rockets, and spraying machine gun fire. And they were doing this from a kilometer away on the east bank of the Tigris River, just inside the city Samarra. Okay, so it was loud. Stuff was blowing up. It was intense. This was no walk in the park. This was real. This was real. 2/3 of that building was collapsed by that suicide bomber. So I pull up, I'm facing the northwest. Okay, I'm going to do another shout out, and thank you, Ro, for suggesting the moment of silence. Okay, here's another shout out. Stephen Edward Vickery, my machine gunner, the colonel's machine gunner. The other guy that was with me in my truck was Specialist Bannister. Stephen Edward Vickery is no longer with us. He committed suicide July 6, 2020. That dude was my buddy. He's still my buddy. He's just not here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That dude, when stuff was blowing up, he was laughing. He was giggling. He was giggling. He is besides Colonel Allen, my battalion commander, Sergeant Vickery was the bravest person I've ever met in combat. He was the bravest. Okay. I pull up. I'm facing the northwest. Vic, we called him Vic. Vic and Bannister get out of the truck. Vic tells me to get out of the driver's seat, to get in the turret of the truck, to get on the machine gun. Okay. I had a hand mic. I had 2 hand mics for two radios. This is the hand mic. Had him up in the turret. I'm facing the northwest. Everything that's coming in is coming from the east, southeast. Okay. I'm standing there in the turret. Vic and Bannister go start assessing the situation. Here comes a lieutenant, okay? And we have what's called DCUs. It's Desert Combat Uniform. This lieutenant comes up to my truck, and he's covered in blood. And he looks at me, and he goes, womp, 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 womp. And I'm like, sir, I don't understand you. And he runs off. Okay? When you're present for a massive explosion, it takes your hearing out.
Yeah.
You can't hear. You can't hear. He could not communicate effectively with his voice because he could not hear. He takes off. He runs away from my position. He runs, and I don't know where, okay. Maybe a minute later, a young E4 named Specialist Martinez comes up, and his left eye is doing circles in his head. He had a wound on the side of his head where something from that explosion hit him in the head, gave him a traumatic brain injury, and his left eye was doing circles this quick, as quick as my fingers doing, in his freaking skull. I got out of the truck. I grabbed Martinez. I said, Martinez, and he didn't say nothing, and likely he could not hear what I was saying to him. I put him in the truck, got him up in the turret of the truck, and again, he didn't say nothing, but I said, if something comes from that direction, kill it. Okay. That freed me up. I was confident that nothing was coming from that direction. For several reasons, I was confident nothing was coming from that direction. Anyway, it freed me up. I went to see what I could do to help my brothers. When I got in front of the building, what was left of the building, there were approximately 20 of my brothers in a staging area that were wounded. They had burns, shrapnel. Some of their uniforms were shredded up.
Yeah.
They were wounded. They were out of commission. They were not combat effective. It was 125 degrees that day. July 8th, 2004, Iraqi National Guard headquarters, Samarra, Iraq. Okay. 125 degrees. Everybody, people were becoming heat casualties. It was so hot, people were becoming heat casualties. So I said, you know what? I got water in my truck. I can get water and start passing out water. I go back to my truck. I lift the trunk and I grab 5, 6, 7 liter and a half bottles of water, plastic bottles of water. I grab them, I turn around, and when I turn around, bullets are hitting 2 feet from my toes. And I'm going to die here. I'm going to freaking die here. I was scared to death. I was scared to death. I said a quick prayer. I said, God, please use me and please keep me alive. And I took off running with that water. I started passing out water. Went back to my truck. I ended up passing out all the water. Okay. So the mortar rounds, the rockets, the indirect machine gun fire was still coming in. It was still coming in. My company commander, Captain Sowers, Wolfpack 6. He was in the FLA, the life support vehicle that I linked up with that drove from our forward operating base, Brassfield Mora, to this area. He had gotten the first wave of casualties in that truck. He gets on the radio. And says, hey, and he wasn't talking to me. He wasn't talking to me. This guy was a captain. He was a commander. He gets on the radio. He says, hey, I'm taking this wave of casualties back to Brassfield Mora. So okay, I'm going to say something. I know myself better than anybody else. God knows me better than I know myself. But I'm going to tell you something about myself. I was a coward. Okay? I did not want to die that day in that spot. So when the company commander said, I'm taking these casualties back, I said, oh, here's my opportunity. We came in with him. We should lead with him. I got on the radio. I said, hey, sir, Wolfpack 6, this is Spader 6 Delta. What do you want me to do? He said, pull up a battle position and fight. And I was like, oh, show. But here's the thing. I had just said a prayer to God. And I told God. I didn't ask him. I told him, use me and keep me alive. My truck was facing the northwest. I then traversed and was facing east. Okay. This was a complex attack. There were multiple groups of Mujahideen insurgents that were staged in groups of 2 and 3 on the east bank of the Tigris River, firing mortars, launching rockets, and spraying machine gun fire. Okay. I'm facing the east. I got a buddy. Shout out, Joe Mata, 11 Bravo 4, sniper. 2/3 of that building was collapsed in that explosion. The remaining 1/3 of that building, there was in Iraq, I can't speak for the rest of the Middle East, but in Iraq, a lot of the Iraqis would sleep outside at night because they ain't got air conditioning and it's super hot. Okay. So most of those buildings would have a stairwell outside, on the outside of the building. You could walk up the stairwell and get to the roof. The remaining 1/3 of that building, we had some soldiers up there responding to the attack, engaging the enemy. Mata had what is called a Viper. And a Viper looks like a pair of binoculars. It has a bipod. It has when you look into the Viper, it has crosshairs. And it has 2 buttons. One button is distance, one button is direction. If I know where I'm at on the earth, if I have a 10-digit grid coordinate to where I'm at, and I'm using a Viper, and I put those crosshairs on an enemy target and press those buttons, distance and direction, now I know, now I can do some simple math, and I can get a 10-digit grid coordinate to where the enemy's at. Mata comes down from the building with distance and direction. Okay. I'm not going to name names on this part. He went to several trucks, to several senior leaders with enemy distance and direction. They did not use that information. Those people he went to, they did not use that information. He came to my truck. He came to my truck. He said, Brooks, I got some information. I said, what do you got, Mata? He said, distance and direction. I said, give it to me. I got on a radio. We had Singar's radios at the time, single channel, ground to air radio system.
Yeah.
So I had, being the battalion commander's driver, and I still got this book at the house. I had a little green memorandum book, okay? And in that book, I had every single frequency, radio frequency, to every single unit in Iraq. Because as the battalion commander's driver, he may have to go to Fob Danger, Fob Dagger, LSA Anaconda. I had to take him numerous times to different places. And when you're doing that, you have to check in on the radio to the units that are in charge of that area of operations. I had every frequency in that memorandum book. Okay. I had two radios with two high frequency amplifiers, and my communications were stellar. I had those radios working stellar. Okay. I could hear people. When I keyed the hand mic, I had communications. So I take that information, I call it up to my company commander. As this was taking place, we had two AH-64 Apache helicopters that came on station. Those Apaches are attack helicopters. Air cavalry is operating those helicopters. In 2004, when this occurred, they had Hellfire missiles. And a Hellfire missile cost $1 million for one missile. Okay. Two AH-64 Apaches arrive on station. I'm calling this information up that my brother, Joe Mata, is getting from distance and direction with that Viper. And what he's doing, there's groups of 2s and 3s about a kilometer away in between 97 and 103 degrees, which is east. Okay. So he's lazing. It's called lazing. He's lazing those targets. He's coming down. He's giving me the distance and direction. I'm subtracting 50 meters because he was behind me. I'm subtracting 50 meters, and I'm calling this information up. I'm calling this information up to my company commander. I'm calling it up on my top radio, my top radio over the battalion frequency. I'm listening to him call it up to those helicopters on my bottom radio. Fired three missions. He gets on the radio, and asks me how my communications were with the helicopters, because his communications weren't that good. I could hear when he called the helicopters, I could hear his radio crackling. He had broken communications. He asked me how my communications were with those helicopters. I said, glorious. I said, glorious. He said, then you call it directly up to those helicopters. Okay. 3 missions with the Apaches. He told me to call it up to the helicopters. I didn't know it, but those Apaches went black on fuel and black on ammo. And that means they were about to run out of fuel, and they had expired all of their ammunition. They left station. 2 little birds, OH-58 Delta Chicago Warriors, showed up. I get on the radio. I said, hey, you, this is me. They said, man, we've been listening to you. I said, let's do it. Fired 3 more missions with those Kiowa Warriors. And then we did one fire for effect, PFC Wright. PFC Travis Wright was in a 113, which is an armor personnel carrier that was set up for 120 millimeter mortar tube, and he was hanging rounds. He was hanging rounds and sending rounds out. The seventh mission that I called up was a 120 millimeter mortar mission. So it was a total of 7 fire missions. And when you're shooting hellfires at groups of 2 and 3 people, there ain't nothing left. There's nothing left. There ain't even blood left. It's vaporized. There's a crater where those people were standing. In the military, there's something called BDA. It's Battle Damage Assessment. When we're doing missions killing folks, we then have to do battle damage assessment. Battle damage assessment indicated that through those 7 fire missions, we removed 11, 12, or 13 bad guys. 11, 12, 13 humans that were just alive were no longer alive. After that 7th mission, it got quiet. There was nothing exploding. It was quiet. The sky in that area was black. And you could smell blood in the air.
Mm-hmm.
It got quiet. It was 125 degrees that day. The fight lasted 6.5 hours. I lost 5 buddies, and around 20 of my buddies that lived all got Purple Hearts, and they were medevaced out of the country. They left Iraq, and they didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
125 degrees. Everybody was dehydrated. We had just went through some crap that I don't want anybody to ever experience. I don't want anybody to experience it.
Yeah, man, it's something chemically, war chemically change your mind. It mess up your mind a little bit when you just seeing things over and over again, and it numbs you, especially when you have to take a life, because when you do it over and over again, you don't think about it. You don't. Because you've seen it over and over.
It changes you.
Yeah.
When I got out of the Army, I was no longer a human being. I had lost my humanity. I got out in May 15th of 2005. I was a shell. I was not a human. I was not a good guy. I was a severe alcoholic. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And I am still recovering from that miserable year. I'm still man, dude, look, I'm a human again. I'm a human again. I am a pacifist. I will not hurt a fly. If a bug gets in my house, I'm going to escort it out of the house.
Mm-hmm. So during your time transitioning out of the military, was Reptiles like a big go-to for, you regaining your humanity back?
I'm sorry, Ro, what'd you say?
I said, was like Reptiles a go-to for you to gain the feeling back? You transitioning out of the military to the civilian life?
Absolutely. When I got back from Iraq to Schweinfurt, Germany, I went into a bookstore, and I knew a little bit of German, but I wasn't fluent or anything like that. I went into a bookstore, and there was a book that had Sanzinia, And I was like, man, when I get back home, I'm going to get back into tree boas. But, you know, pull up those documents. Show the world those documents.
Yeah, I got you. So yeah, I was pulling that up right then. And for the people that can't see what it says, so people don't know right here. So this is a award. Basically, this is an award written up for Specialist Brooks during that time, during Iraq, 2024 or 2023?
July 8th, 2004.
Yeah, 2004. So this is what his commanders said about his character and everything. Essential to getting indirect fires on target in a timely manner, and ensuring ensuring enemy could not get indirect fires onto the compound. So basically, he made sure that the enemies couldn't get any damage done on the compound that they was already doing. And he took out the enemies. You know, he made sure he gave that distance and direction. You know, where the enemy at, and he was a key part in into that whole war, into that whole fight, that whole battle.
That battle. Yeah.
That whole battle was a key. Say your was HAC commander.
Yeah, that
absolutely was exceptional. Yeah, absolutely essential to the mission. Indirect fire. Thanks for your thanks for your performance, I believe you say.
Tremendous performance.
Oh, tremendous. Yeah, tremendous performance. My bad. Yeah.
So yeah, that right there, the top is the company commander.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom is the battalion commander. This area right here where it says the bottom part is Randall Dragon. That was my brigade commander.
Mm-hmm. And we have your ARCOM right here as well. Your ARCOM, meritorious achievement during ground combat operation against the enemy forces in Samarra, Iraq. Specialist Brook treated casualties and occupied the key battle positions while securing the ING headquarters. His dedication and duty reflects great credit upon himself, the Blue Spaders, the DAG Brigade combat team, and the United States Army. From 08 July 2024 to 08 July 2024. On that day. Yeah. Signed, Colonel Dragon. So yeah, man. Thank you for your service, man. Thank you for everything that you done for our country. Because ain't no telling. Yeah, ain't no telling what was going to go on, you know, if you wasn't there, or you know, if you didn't say, "Hey, Commander, let me get this truck up to use."
Combat speed because of the transmission.
Up the combat speed. You know, a lot of people. This is a ARCOM, Army Accommodation Medal, and specialists don't get this, especially back in that time. Specialists don't get this shit. They barely get them today, because for you to get an ARCOM, you have to have directly affected the brigade directly to get this award.
Ro, go back to that previous document.
This one?
Yeah. So on the bottom third of that page, you can see where it says it's circled. It says downgrade to RCOM.
Mm-hmm.
They actually put me in for an RCOM with Valor, a B device, Valor. You can only get a B device in combat. Colonel Dragon Colonel Dragon downgraded it to an RCOM. That used to piss me off. Now I laugh about it. It did used to piss me off, but I laugh about it. I laugh about it now.
Yeah.
Me for context, me and Colonel Dragon
supposed to be an MSM, y'all. It's supposed to be an MSM. But yeah, man. Go ahead.
Me and Colonel Dragon, he was my infantry brigade commander. He was a full bird colonel. And for specific reasons, he did not like me. He didn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like me. They put me in for a Bronze Star at the company level. When it went up to battalion, they downgraded it to an RCOM with Valor. When it went up to brigade, Colonel Dragon downgraded it from an RCOM with Valor to an RCOM. So, hey, that's cool. That's fine. I don't care. The thing is, God used me and he kept me alive. And that's what's important.
Right. So
that's my award. I'm still here. I didn't die that day.
Mm-hmm. So what made you get out the military?
Okay. I stated earlier that in that particular position, driving the battalion commander, I got to see the political side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into specifics, but I got to see the political side. And I didn't like it. I did not like it. So my re-enlistment window came open. I want to say it was right as we were getting ready to leave Iraq in February of 2005. My re-enlistment window came open. It may have been January. I can't remember. My re-enlistment window came open. I went to the battalion sergeant major and I asked him if there were any schools I could get. Ranger school, sniper school. He said, I'll get back with you. He went and checked MTO, which is MTO designates what certain soldiers can do in the Army based upon their mission-oriented specialty. 19 Delta. Okay. I asked him specifically about Ranger school and sniper school. He came back a couple days later, told me, hey, you can reclassify as 11 Bravo, take on another MOS, go to Fort Benning to do infantry AIT, come back to the unit, and we'll give you a Ranger school slot and a sniper school slot. And I said, you know what? That's a whole lot of moving parts. And by the time I get back to Germany, go to Fort Benning, take on another MOS, get back to Germany, we're going to be right back in Iraq again. So I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going back home and I'm going to be a drywall finisher again. I'm going to go back and finish sheetrock. Go back.
Yeah.
I
understand that. I understand that. Like a lot of times, that's what not deterred me, but that's what makes me not even want to, be a first sergeant or be a sergeant major, because the political side of everything, bro, let's just do our damn job. Good is good. You know what's right from right and wrong from wrong. Your higher ups, y'all preach that all the time. So let's do what's right and say what everybody's thinking. honestly, don't sugarcoat nothing. Don't step around, because once you sugarcoat stuff and be political about stuff, that's when things go wrong in the object or the mission that you're trying to accomplish. You know, with me. So, being HR, I sit in a lot of these meetings, being human resources, and the way these officers plan things and all that stuff is real just nonsense. And it's a lot of ass kissing and stuff, bro. I'm not gonna do none of that. I'm not gonna do none of that.
Smoochy, smoochy, sir. Would
Yeah,
you pull your hey, sir, I'm gonna pull your pants down and bury my face.
yeah. It's ridiculous because they want that extra block, or they want that extra candy on their NCOR the officer, the ORI, whatever it's called. It's a lot of
OER,
documented.
officer evaluation report. Yep.
Yeah,
So
OER.
so also when I was talking to the sergeant major about reenlisting, Department of the Army was not offering any bonuses to 19 Delta Cavalry Scouts, no financial. So in Army, sometimes they will offer you $20,000 to sign up for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And this was OIF2, Operation Iraqi Freedom 2. This was in the first couple years of the conflict, and all the wise guys up in the Department of the Army, they were about to lose a bunch of soldiers. Who knows? If they had offered me $20,000, I might have signed up again.
Yeah.
But they weren't. Shortly after I got out, they started offering bonuses to 19 Deltas, but it was too late.
Yeah.
I was gone.
Yeah, like a lot of times, well, I'm a retention NCO as well. I talk to the soldiers within my brigade, make sure that they know that they're in their reenlistment window, and yeah, we do paperwork, all that stuff. So, with bonuses, I probably only got 2 bonuses my whole entire military career, and none of them was over $10,000. Like, I wish.
When I enlisted in December 2000, I signed up for 4 years, and I got a $15,000 bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Sam took 4,000 of that, so 11,000 landed in my bank account, and I spent it. I spent that $11,000 on Marlboro Lights, beer. I spent it on Marlboro Lights, beer, and Jack Daniels. All 11,000 of it. That's that's what I spent it on.
Yeah. Yeah, the Army, the military itself, without saying it, promotes alcoholism. Without saying it, we got the class 6. When you get discounts, maybe the alcohol is about $10 to $15 cheaper. Then they got all these deals and bundles and stuff, and they don't give any type of solution for alcoholism. They're like, oh yeah, you can go to counseling and all that good stuff, or what's the program called?
ASAP, Army Substance Abuse
ASAP.
Program.
Yeah, ASAP and all that stuff. But when can you? That's the thing. When can you? Because it's always the mission first. It's always. And a lot of soldiers, they're not taking care of themselves, and leaders not taking care of themselves, because we're always in the mission first mindset. So we have to, like, the Army right now is transitioning from the mission first and dedicating more to family oriented self-care, because we have too many people that have PTSD. We got too many shootings. We have a lot of, too much suicide. Suicide.
22 a day. 22 a day.
Oh man.
22 on average, 22 veterans or active duty soldiers kill themselves per day, 22 a day. And again, my dear buddy Stephen Vickery ended his life July 6, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah.
To do that, you got to be in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But I got back to Montgomery, Alabama, May 15th of 05. I had 2 weeks terminal leave, and that just means that I had 2 weeks of leave that the Army let me go 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
I got an honorable discharge. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
I got buddies that did not get an honorable discharge. I got an honorable discharge.
Amen
so
to that.
Boom. I signed up for 4 years. I did 4 years, 4 months, and 6 days because of something called a stop loss. And stop loss is basically Department of the Army saying, we're not letting you out. You are mission essential. We're not letting you out. So I ended up doing it 4 years, 4 months, 6 days. Got back to Alabama May 15th of 05. Went directly the next day. Started back finishing sheetrock with a couple of my sheetrock contractor buddies in Prattville and Montgomery. I had coordinated with them from Iraq. When I decided not to re-enlist, I called them up, said, hey, I'm coming back home. I need a job. They said, we got you. When you get back, well, we got you. So I came back, started back finishing sheetrock. And it was the end of 05, first of 06 before I got my first Amazon tree boa constrictors. At the time it was kingsnake.com. And I had a little 400 square foot little bitty house right inside Prattville, Alabama. And I had a desktop computer with some internet. And I would get on King Snake and surf for Amazon tree boas. And when I started buying, again, it was end of 2005, first month or two of 2006, I started sending people money. And FedEx and UPS started dropping off boxes of snakes on my back porch.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, again, I wanted tree boas, but I didn't really know much about husbandry. So I was talking to one guy out of Fort Myers, Florida. His name was Ernie Eisen, real good guy. And I was talking to Matt Lehrer of GHI Reptiles out of Florida. And they were kind enough to share information with me on how to set the Amazons up. And so one by one, the snakes started coming. And at the time, most of those animals were wild caught. They were coming in from exporters, importers, coming in through Florida, and then getting dispersed to various keepers throughout the United States. And so Ernie and Matt said, hey, do this. And basically, I was in a 400 square foot house. It had a bedroom, a living room, a bathroom, and a kitchen. And so I was setting the snakes up in my bedroom where I slept.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the same way I do it today. Well, slightly different. I was using ambient heat. I had bought some Flex Watt, and I wasn't satisfied with the Flex Watt. And Ernie and Matt said, there's different ways to do it. So I had a oil-filled radiant heater plugged into the socket in the living room. I had the heater in the doorway going from the living room into the bedroom, and I had a fan blowing on it. And so the snakes were and there was a ceiling fan in the bedroom. I had one window unit air conditioner in the bedroom, and I had one window unit air conditioner in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So Amazons were coming. I was setting them up in 60 quart plastic tubs. And I would set like I was doing a little working out. So I had weights. I had like 10, 15, 10-pound weights. I would set a weight on top of the container so the snake couldn't push itself out. And I don't know. I ended up, I don't know. I probably bought conservatively, I probably bought 100 Amazons.
Sheesh.
You
went in. You went in.
It was cool. It was cool. It was cool. I probably, and I say conservatively, it was probably a few more than that, but I probably bought about 100. And again, a lot of these animals were wild caught. So they were coming in with different issues, and I was tending to them. Some of them had like terrible sheds. Some of them had, parasite issues. A lot of them died. A lot of those animals died. And it was not to my neglect. They came in with problems. And some of them wouldn't eat.
Is Nido a big issue in the Amazon tree boa community?
I don't understand it to be, but IBD stargazers is. So
what is that?
Well, it's a body disorder. It's a neurological disorder that affects the snake. And they call it stargazers because what they'll do is, even in the daytime and at night, they will look up. And anybody that keeps arboreals knows that when they're hanging from a tree branch, they're looking down. Mm-hmm. When a healthy Amazon tree boa is going to be looking down, because that is the natural instinct that a prey item comes along, they're looking down, boom. When you see stargazers or IBD, they're looking up. And there are other behaviors with that disease that they can have a wobble. They can even have a wobble. Yeah. Where that head is kind of doing this in some scenarios.
Yeah. It kind of like in ball pythons, kind of like in ball pythons and I think like it's the 8-ball complex. Yeah, the spider gene and all that stuff. When you put two supers together, well, when you put two codons together, make a super and all that, the super have an effect, a neurological effect like that. So
yeah, and so and IBD is extremely contagious. If you have it in your collection, there's a good chance everything else has it. So if you're seeing, and there's a big difference from 2005, 2006 to 2026. In the collection that I have right now, I source my Amazons primarily from two people. Dayton Croydon of HD Arboreals out of Portland, Oregon, and Rory Gresco of Canopy Lab Exotics out of Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two dudes that I've been working with the longest.
Okay.
There are several other great Amazon tree boa keepers and breeders. Several.
Mm-hmm.
The community is very close. It's very tight knit. And what's great is Amazon tree boas are growing in popularity. The you no longer have to get one. You no longer have to go through. You no longer have to go through get an exporter and get a wild caught Amazon.
Right. And how many
All
years
my
ago did that stop?
All my animals are captive bred and born.
Mm-hmm. I say, how many years did that stop? Like, you didn't have to go to exporters or importers.
Okay, well, okay, so I did get a few animals from. I got a couple back in 2007. I got my first leopards from Ben Siegel out of Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a really nice calico out of I think it was Reptiles in Texas. Anyway, and I was introduced to two people on the West Coast, Alex McVicker of Carnivorous Orchids, and my great buddy, my very dear buddy, Rolf Kern of Serpentes Pacifica from California. At the time, red Amazons were super rare in captivity. Matt Lehrer of GHI Reptiles in Florida had a bunch of them. He had some nice ones. The majority of Matt's animals were wild caught. He was going through the bargain bins in South Florida, snatching up every red Amazon that he could find. Another fella that I got two animals from in 2006, 2007 was Danny Mendez of Urban Jungles, and as I recall, he lives in New Jersey. He's still around, but Danny Mendez was responsible for what we know as the tiger gene. So getting off track, but I want to say this: that tiger gene, as I recall, was imported. Danny got it, and now I may be wrong about this, but as I understand it, Danny didn't know what that was a gene. He didn't know that was an inheritable gene, an incomplete dominant.
He didn't know what he had at that time.
No, but he bred that. I think that was a male, and he bred it. I believe it was a male. He bred it to a normal female, and 50% of the babies came out with a stripe going from head to tail. We got something. So Danny ended up, again, I don't want to speak for Danny, but as I recall, and that was 20 years ago, Danny ended up sending, I don't know, one or two animals to Matt Lehrer of GHI Reptiles. When I got my, and the tiger gene, it was early 2000s. It was a thing when I got back from the Army, but you didn't see tigers. They just showed up on the scene. So I ended up getting a tiger female from Danny, a neonate, and he threw in a sibling that was a normal male. So anyway, so captive bred, you know, they weren't as big as they are now. That now it's a big thing, but at the time they were not a big thing. And so the majority of my animals were wild caught, and then I had maybe 6 or 7 captive bred. I maintained that collection for 3.5 years, and then life did its thing, and I ended up parting with the collection. My second collection, I started in 2012. So three years later, I started my second collection, and that's when I started getting animals from Chris McQuaid of Gulf Coast Reptiles. I was getting animals from Rory Gresco, and me and Dayton were communicating. Dayton Croydon was co-host to Corrales Radio with Jeff Godbold, and that was a little, I don't call it podcast thing, but it was a little thing where Dayton and Jeff would get, you know, you could. So I don't know if I can't. It was on the internet. It was Corrales Radio, and I think Jeff just cranked that back up. I think Corrales Radio is.
I'm finna pull up what a tiger looked like. I believe this would have. Is it like that?
It hadn't loaded yet for me, so let me see.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
and so that is actually 2 genes. That is the leopard gene, which is recessive, and the tiger gene, which is incomplete dominant.
Will it stay like that its whole life?
Okay, so yes and no. That particular animal I was blessed with October 20th of 2025. I produced that animal out of a leopard tiger male that I purchased from Rory Gresco and a tiger het leopard female that I purchased from Dayton Croydon. So I picked up the female in 2021. I picked up the male in the end of 2022. I grew them up, and I introduced them in March 1st of 2025. And I produced 6 neonates on that litter. One of them, when I walked in the snake room, I didn't even look at what was in that arboreal enclosure. I honed in on the one neonate that was still inside the amniotic sac.
Yeah.
And I reached in, I tried to save it. It was a deformed neo. It tried to have 2 heads. It was
Oh man.
It was a fully developed neo, but in the process of becoming a snake, it had developed. It almost had 2 heads. It was trying to have 2 heads, but it was sucking wind. It was sucking fluid.
Yeah.
And so I made the hard call on that one, but I did get 5 very robust babies. 3 of them were tiger het leopards. One of those tiger het leopards is a paradox that I call Morphine. I named her Morphine. The other 2 look like that one. The other 2 were leopard tigers. You can only get a visual leopard by breeding 2 leopards together, 2 het leopards together, or a het leopard and a leopard. That's the only way you can get a leopard. And this particular animal also is a tiger. So both the parents were tigers. One of them, the sire, was a visual leopard. The dam was a het leopard. Both were tigers. all the babies were tigers, which tiger is incomplete dominant. Typically, if you breed a tiger to a normal, statistically 50% of those babies are going to be tiger.
Yeah.
Both of the parents were tiger,
Love that.
both of the parents were tiger, and it just so happened that I got all tigers, and two of them were also leopards. So that is a leopard tiger, and that is a very melanistic leopard. And like a lot of species, they go through the OCC, which is the ontogenetic color change. So what they start out looking like as a neonate can change, and oftentimes changes very drastically. But that animal.
Do this have any tiger in it?
Yes, that is the dam of that. That is the mother to that animal, that leopard tiger. That is Calypso.
She's beautiful. Oh my God.
Yeah, I love her, dude. She's great. She came from Dayton. When I purchased her, I got her and her brother. So there's her and her brother's siblings. She is a tiger het leopard. And so what you're seeing there, if you look along the length of that snake's body, there's a stripe, and that is that stripe can be broken. It can be very bold. And in some animals, that stripe, you can't even see it. But that is a tiger het leopard. That is the dam of that baby that you just had on the screen.
Okay.
And she's awesome, and she's great. She's a little on the grumpy side.
All right.
And I like that.
We had this one right here. This is insane. Yeah, how big are these animals? Like, how many grams are they usually?
I don't weigh my animals. I go by age. I go by age and length, basically. So that's Honey Bun. She's a possible hypomelanistic specimen. She is. Let me do the math. She's almost 3 years old. She's almost 3 years old, and so I go by age, and I don't weigh my animals. I've never weighed them. I've never weighed them, but so a male can breed at 18 months. I'm getting further away from breeding the male so young for a couple reasons. But a male can breed at 18 months. A female, it is good to wait at least 3 years. A female, when they're 4 or 5 years old, that's better. And a male, when they're 2.5, 3 years old, that's better. But a female can breed at 2.5 years. A male can breed at 18 months. But oftentimes, they don't have the mass to breed. Well, they can breed, but they don't have the size they need. And sometimes a male will stop eating when he's actively breeding. And when that animal is young and it stops eating, that can be a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
It needs to be growing. It still has growing to do. So when it stops eating, that can be an issue. I don't suggest breeding at 18 months. Okay, so this right here, the red animal That is Esmeralda, a calico tiger. And the yellow animal was Corinne, and she was a proven hypo. She actually, I put her with another hypo, and she produced a Lucy. That was in 2016 when I bred her, and she gave me 5 or 6 screaming yellow animals and 1 Lucy. But so for context, it's
the red Amazon. Is that fully mature?
Yeah. Both of those animals. Yeah. So what you're looking at, they've basically gone through the OCC. They're not at that point right there. Both those animals were 4 years old in that picture. They have basically done the majority of their growing and the big majority of their color change. So what you're looking at there is a calico tiger, that's the red animal, and a proven hypomelanistic animal in the yellow animal. But I want to talk about mode of inheritance for a minute. So to produce a blue eye leucistic, you got to put 2 hypos together. When you put 2 hypos, and that yellow animal is a hypo. When you put 2 hypos together, each baby has a 25% chance of being born a blue eye leucistic. So statistically, if you get 4 babies from 2 hypos, one of them should be a blue eye Lucy. If you get 8 babies, 2 of them should be blue eye Lucies. That red animal is a double gene animal. It's a calico and a tiger. The calico gene, the red gene, the calico gene, they are recessive. That red gene doesn't just show up unless both of the parents are red. One of them is red and one of them's het, or you got 2 hets. And red and calico basically go hand in hand. So
it looked like that thing is beautiful.
So a red animal, if you breed 2 red animals, that doesn't mean you're getting calicos. If you breed 2 calicos, all the babies are going to be calico, but some of them may be low expression, some of them may be high expression. And with the calicos, you're going to see primarily 3 dominant colors: red, white, and black. Most calicos, when they're born, are very red, very bright red with white. And that white is basically what we would call, the expression of that calico is mainly that white. And they can have a small amount of white, or they can be lots of white with the red. The black typically comes with age. So as that neo is becoming a juvenile, subadult, and an adult, in most cases you'll start to see some black pigment or some melanin. But I'll tell you what, Randall Pegas of Stoic Arboreals has he's got a bunch of cool animals, but he's got a super cool animal that he calls Freak Show. And Freak Show is a calico that is high expression calico. It is one of the coolest calicos I've ever seen. I wish for those of you who don't know, Randall Pegas is on Instagram, Stoic Arboreals. You can go on his Instagram.
Beautiful animals.
He does got some Randy's got some top-notch animals. You can go on his Instagram page and check out Freak Show. Freak Show, and And I had Freak Show's brother. I called him Hellfire, and Hellfire is also on my Instagram page. But I sent Hellfire to Dayton, Croydon, at the last year. I want to say it was August or September. I think September. I sent Hellfire to Dayton for some projects that he's got going on. So several recessive mutations, and let me think. The only dominant incomplete dominant gene that we have right now is tiger. The tiger gene is the incomplete dominant. There are some there's a disagreement that's a calico. That's Inferno.
Yeah. It looked like it, like, because what you explained, you know, the red with the white scales and it's dark. And is it going to turn more red as it get older?
So that animal, so when those calicos start out, most of them are very red. Like you see her head is very red. She was a very red animal with very low expression white and maybe a couple black scales. But as calicos change, they do not get redder. They do not gain red. They gain primarily white and black or gray. They can have, like, you can look on her and you can see like a couple yellow scales, some peach color scales, but they don't gain red. Now, some calicos stay redder than others. I've got a female named Pyro, who is gravid. I'm waiting on her post-ovulation shed. She ovulated a couple weeks ago. She's gravid, and she is darkening up. These guys will, when they're gravid, they'll darken up. They will darken up to absorb heat, so they can cook the babies.
Gotcha.
So
that's smart. That's crazy. You know.
Right now, that girl right there that's on the screen, Sith, my male leopard tiger, Liger, is breeding her. I saw the first lock at the end of February, and he's been locking up with that particular animal throughout the month of March, and actually haven't seen any locks out of them in April, but they're laying all over each other, and she's actually got some good scale separation where she's swelling. So there's things are moving in the right direction with that pairing. And with that pairing, what I expect to see, half the litter should be tiger, and the other the whole litter should be het leopard and het calico, and half that litter should be tiger. Now, to give you an idea, when those babies are born, I grow them up, and I pair them. For instance, I do a male to a female, and what I should see in the litter produced from their babies are calicos, so red snakes, leopards, so black snakes, and then Lord willing, I see a leopard calico, which to our knowledge, it either does not exist or has never been produced in captivity. And if it has been produced, we have no knowledge of it. So this particular breeding between leopard and calico is it's been done at least one time, but the result was not good. As far as the babies didn't live, and it wasn't a pairing I did. It was a pairing a friend of mine did. But so if everything works out with these with my leopard tiger male and this calico female, and we get a couple babies, het leopard, het calico. Hopefully it'll be a male and female, and I'm willing to do something with this particular with the babies from this breeding that I would not normally do, and that is breed siblings back to each other. I wouldn't do that. Yeah. I try to outcross everything I'm working with. I don't even like to breed father to daughter. Yeah. I don't like doing inbreeding or line breeding. I prefer to stay. If it takes me 10, 15 years to produce what I would call the end result. If it takes me time to produce that, again, Lord willing, I'll live that long and I'll see those results. But I don't like inbreeding or line breeding, and I will only do it in a particular scenario or situation.
Yeah. Understood. Do y'all have like issues or anything that in the Amazon world with line breeding?
Yeah. Okay. So there can be issues. Chris McQuaid out of Gulf Coast Reptiles out of Florida, he produced the first blue eye leucistics, and he bought a male. He bought a male
right here.
That is a blue eye leucistic.
Okay.
That is a female that I got in 2014 from Chris McQuaid. I named her Rosalague, and that was I typically name all my animals. And excuse me, I like to name them after military weaponry and heavenly bodies. Now, sometimes I'll give a name that has nothing to do with weapons or heavenly bodies, but I named her after a star in a distant galaxy that it's a white star. And Rosalague, the name of that star, is actually Arabic for the head of the serpent collection, or the head of the serpent keeper. It's an Arabic name, but yes, I got that animal from Chris McQuaid, and so Chris ended up he got a yellow male, a very nice yellow male, from a random dude somewhere in the Midwest. Chris saw this male on the internet. The guy had it for sale. And Chris is a smart dude. He has produced several world's first. And Chris was responsible. Chris was responsible for the first blue eye leucistic Amazon tree boa. But he purchased a yellow male. He paired it with several females he had, and 50% of the litters came out looking just like the dad. So, and what Chris did was he grew up one of the females he produced from that original yellow male, put them together, produced a blue eye leucistic. And he did that. He got his first blue eye lucy, I want to say in 2010, 2011. And so he realized that, boom, this is something right here. He had something. And so Chris is responsible for producing the blue eye lucy. And so for some context, for some history, I purchased 3 blue eye lucies from Chris in 2013, 2014. I got 3, 2 females and a male. When I was talking to Chris on the phone about getting a Blue Eye Lucy from him, my desktop computer was on, and it was on Facebook, and I'm talking to Chris on the phone, and my screen refreshes, and a guy named Bobby Pruitt, the quotation was, "I hit the genetic jackpot." And there was a tub, it was a plastic tub with 11 or 12 neonate Amazons, and 3 of them were Blue Eye Lucies. Bobby got the parents of those animals from Chris McQuaid. And I'm here to tell you, those parents did not look hypo. They did not look hypo. They were drab, dark, brownish, blackish. You put these 2 animals together, you would not expect a Blue Eye Lucy, but he got 3 Blue Eye Lucies.
Right. Okay.
2 of those animals.
I got some. Yeah. So I got some wrap up questions real quick. We coming to the end of the episode, but you know what I'm saying. Of course, we're gonna have a part 3 because I know you was on with Jen. Now you're on with me. You're gonna be on with me again in a couple of weeks. So we had some wrap up questions because we only really go like maybe an hour and a half for the episode. So
we went way over. We went way over tonight.
Yeah, it's okay. That's all right too. So wrap up question number 1: what's the hardest part of military life versus breeding snakes?
Okay, so the hardest part is you can't keep typically you can't keep reptiles very well in the Army. You're either in a barracks, or if you're married and you live outside the barracks, you're moving every 2 or 3 years. So it's not really conducive. It's not really a stable environment for reptile keeping. That right there presents the number 1 difficulty. You basically can't keep them. And so not knowing what duty station you may be going to next or what theater you might be deployed in, you can't provide the care. You can't provide the care that is necessary for those animals. Outside the military, we got all the information today we need for husbandry requirements. And again, you're a lot more hopefully you're a lot more stable outside of the military, and that brings a great opportunity to do, and I love Amazons. I don't keep any other species but Amazon tree boas.
So next question, 1 word that describe Amazon tree boas.
Beautiful.
Definitely, because this thing, right? This one too, man. Like all of them. It's crazy. Like I didn't know that they stayed colors like these and all that. That's way beautiful.
They're polymorphic. Polymorphic means many colors. They're polymorphic. You can have reds, yellows, white, black, gray, garden, Halloween. You don't really see green. That's not, I got an animal named BX, and she's got some dark green. She's gravid right now. She's gravid. BX is gravid. But yes, you don't really see green. That's not a thing in Amazons.
Right.
Red, yellow, brown, black, white, gray.
Okay. And where can people find you at, your social media?
So I'm not on Facebook. Instagram, my handle's Amazon_Eden. You can find me on Instagram. I do have a website in the works. But I imagine that won't be done until later on this year. I'm not in a big hurry on the website. You can also go to Reddit. I started a Reddit group, r/Amazon Tree Boa, and I pinned a husbandry, a short husbandry pin to the top of the Reddit group. So there's some husbandry information. I encourage anybody who's interested to join that Reddit group. It's a good place, to come and learn things, to share information, to post pictures, but primarily it's Instagram at Amazon_Eden.
Right. Okay. So Jake, thank you again for coming on again. We here at the Herp Collector Network doesn't take your present lightly. This is about 2.5 hours that you could have been spending with your family, but you're here with us, man. And we appreciate the knowledge, and we appreciate you serving our country and paving the path for us, for the little army. What's going on, bro?
Hey, Ro, thank you for having me on. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some Army experiences. I appreciate you, brother. You're a great person. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. Later on at another date, we can dive deep on the Amazons.
Yeah.
I would love to come on, because there's a lot more about Amazon. I didn't get into that like I would like to, but there's a lot.
No, we're
more
definitely
about
going to get into that, here in a few weeks. Definitely going to get into that here in a few weeks. Yeah.
I'm available.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you backstage real quick, and I'm gonna say bye to the chat, and then we could chat it up after. So don't.
God bless y'all. Thank you. God bless y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, episode 73 here with Jake, man. Thank you again, bro. So chat, that's a wrap. Episode 73. Jake, man, he did unspeakable things. His life. We just talked an hour and a half about the whole military aspect, how it was back in the early 2000s and how it grew to the day, how far it came. And we went over a little Amazon stuff, but here in the next few weeks, we're going to have them on again. And we can go dive deeper into Amazons and husbandry and, litter and all that stuff, because they give live birth. So we're going to be talking about that. But until then, I will see y'all next time here on the Chondro Corner. Talk to y'all later, man.
Chondro Corner, where we rise and grow. Twist and turn, let the passion flow. Chondro Corner, watch the future shine. Every scale a story, one of a kind.
From the shadows we move, striking out bright. In every twist we find the light. Breeding the best, gotta have patience in this game. Chondro Corner, where we make our name. Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner.